Supercharge your ability to achieve goals rapidly with this simple NLP mind hack. Stay tuned. Damon here with NLP Gym. I'm going to show you a very simple mind hack to achieve your goals rapidly. Before I do that, if you haven't already, please click subscribe to this YouTube channel so you can get these videos on a regular basis. When setting goals, one of the things that's going to make a huge difference is plugging in the way that you code certainty or something you expect to do. So this is really simple. If you haven't had any NLP training, this might seem a little odd at first, but once you understand what I mean by coding, this will make a lot of sense. So take something very simple that you expect to do, like having dinner tonight. Most of us will eat dinner tonight, so you expect to do that. How do you know that you expect to do that? You might even want to stop this video for a second to think about that. Some people just say, well, I just know. And that's what NLP is all about. It's finding out how you know what you know, because there's always an unconscious or conscious if you bring it into consciousness. But if you don't know how you know, that's because there is an unconscious process that's taking place that if you're not conscious of it, you're not aware of it. And this is what NLP is all about, and this is what really excites me about NLP, because it's all about making your programs conscious so that you can change them. Or even if you don't change them, you become the person running the program instead of the program running you. And that's how most of us are living, and that's what we mean by waking up. You're waking up to the unconscious programming so that now you put yourself back in charge instead of having the programs be in charge of you. So take a moment and think about that. How do you know what you know when you expect to do something very simple? And I mean really keep it simple. Do you expect to go to work tomorrow morning? Most of us do. Do you expect to eat dinner? Do you expect to eat breakfast? Whatever those things are that you absolutely expect to do, doesn't mean they will for certain happen. Nothing is really 100% certain, right? But think about those things that are very simple that you expect to do. Now, for me, I'm going to use the example of when I was actually writing this blog for this video. I was expecting to, when I was done on my computer, get up and go get a glass of water. It's something I typically do. It's an action that I am doing, and it's completely independent of anyone else. I don't depend on someone else to do it, and it's an action that I will do. You don't want to choose something that is not something you do. Like, I expect the sun to rise tomorrow morning. It most likely will, but I have nothing to do with that. I don't actually have to take an action for that to happen. So that's not a good example. Another example might be, I expect Mary to say yes when I ask her out. Okay, so even if it's a really good chance that she will say yes, you still don't know that for certain, because that's dependent on someone else. The same thing would be like, I'm expecting to get a job promotion. We don't want to use an example like that because you don't know that for certain, and it's dependent on someone else, like your boss. So use something very simple that requires an action for you to take, and that you can do it independently of anyone else. Having dinner is one of those things. Going to work tomorrow morning, getting up and going get a glass of water. All of those things are within my control, and I don't need anyone else, and it's quite certain that I will do this. So you want to do something very simple like that. So think about, how do you know that you will do that? How do you expect that you will do that? What is it about it that's so certain? So what I'm not looking for here, what we don't want to get into, is reasoning and like the why. Because people will, when you ask them a why question, they'll start giving you all sorts of rationalizations and reasoning for that. And that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the structure of how this happens. So for me, how this happens is I see an image of myself, and it's a movie, and it's about right here. So it's a little bit, it's not quite centered, it's a little bit to my right, but it's right in front of me. And I see an image of me from behind, so this is disassociated. I'm not in my body, I can see myself. And I see myself grabbing a pitcher, which is where I keep my filtered water, and pouring a glass of water. Now, as soon as I start to see myself do that, I suddenly snap into my body and I become fully associated. And once I pour the glass of water, set the pitcher down, I go to take a sip, I actually snap back out of my body and see myself again drinking the glass of water. That is how I code expectation. Now, I didn't create that. When I had an NLP coach who asked me, how did I code expectation? He walked me down this process. I understood that that's how I naturally do that. It was unconscious, but now I made it conscious. So I didn't create that process. I mean, technically I did, because somehow it was created in me unconsciously. But I didn't sit down and like NLP this process out. That's just how I naturally code expectation. So you want to find out how you naturally code expectation. Now here's the cool part. Most people who I've worked with and coached using this technique have a very similar way of coding expectation as the one that I just laid out for you. A lot of them do the same thing. They see themselves, they snap into their body, and they snap back out. Now, you need to discover this for yourself. You might not be the same way, and some people might not be as visual. You might actually hear a voice, you might hear a sound that kind of lets you know that you're doing something. If those things are happening, I would say, if it's more auditory for you, transform that auditory into a visual. It just makes it easier to work with. If you say, oh, I'm a kinesthetic person, be very clear what type of kinesthetic you're talking about. There's a kinesthetic that is tactile and proprioceptive, which is the kind of kinesthetic you would want to look for in this situation. But if you say, oh, I just feel it inside, like it's an evaluative feeling, that's not the feeling we're looking for, because everyone has the evaluative feeling. That evaluative feeling is coming secondarily to something you're seeing or something you're hearing or something like tactile feeling or proprioceptive that you're feeling that sort of seems to be outside of yourself. So what happens to trigger that evaluative feeling would then be my question to you if you say, oh, I just feel it inside. Okay, so anyway, shifting it to visual, like if it's an auditory thing or a kinesthetic thing, ask yourself, what would it be like if I saw a movie of this? And I think that works. It's just easier to work with. So try that out, and then once you figure out what it is, how you code expectation, certain expectation without doubt, apply that to a goal. Now this gets really cool. So what I do is, say I'm working on a memoir, and I want to complete the first draft by the end of this year, and I'd like the final draft to be completed by the end of 2017, maybe beginning of 2018. So I apply this same coding to how I know I've completed this goal. So what I do is I see myself from behind signing at a book signing, and I see myself signing books for people. And as soon as someone hands me a book to sign, I suddenly snap into my body and I start signing the book. And then as I go to hand it back to the person, I snap back out of my body and I see myself disassociated handing the book to the person. So again, I see myself, I'm disassociated. When I go to sign the book, I snap into my body, sign the book, and then as I hand it over, I disassociate and watch myself hand the book to the person. I rehearse that 7 to 10 times. This has worked amazingly well for me. I've used it for eating habits, exercise habits, overall general health habits. I've used it for better business practices, and I could go on and on about the different goals that I've used this far. So what you're doing is you're programming your mind to code certain expectation without doubt that you're going to achieve that goal that you want to achieve. And it's amazing how well this works, and it's sort of like you don't even have to think about it so much anymore, and your mind is just like a heat-seeking missile going to make that happen, because you don't think so much about eating dinner. It just sort of happens, or it seems to happen. But there is a definite process in your mind that makes that happen. It's the way that you code expectation. Same thing with getting a glass of water, the same thing with going to work in the morning. And when you apply that to achieving a goal, it's amazing how your mind just goes, oh yeah, that's just something that's going to happen. And you go for it. So give that a try and let me know. I'd love to hear back from your experiences of how this works for you. Feel free to leave a comment here under the video, or send me an email or a message in any way that your preference is. But I'd love to hear back and see how this works for you. Check out our website, nlp-gym.com. Follow us on Facebook for real-time updates on free practice sessions and workshops that are coming up. And as I mentioned before at the beginning of this video, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. And at the end of this video, you'll see a way that you can access a free online NLP training that we have on our website. So stay tuned for that, and take care. What are you doing, Ro? I'm about to shoot something. Come on, go back up and I'll be done in a minute.